This happened in an old house I lived in when my children were very young. After my second son was born and was just a baby, we were in our room, just hanging out with the baby. My oldest daughter was about 7 at the time. I was talking to her. I don't remember what I was saying. But I was telling her something, not mad or anything, just something mundane. And all of a sudden, she stops. She looks at me with terror in her eyes. The shift was sudden, and I couldn't help but notice. She looked like she was about to cry. I stopped talking immediately, and I saw the look in her eyes. And I asked her, "What's wrong?" She couldn't even speak for a few seconds at least. And then she tried to describe something. She tried to describe what she saw, but it was difficult because she was so young. She said something to the effect of, it looked like a really scary demon mask had gone over my face when I was talking, and she couldn't see my face anymore, just that smiling demon mask over me. And then it went away. I didn't know what to say. I asked her, "Is it still there? Is it still on my face? Or do you see my face?" She said, "I see your face." I wanted to give her a hug to assure her everything was all right, but she didn't want to hug me for a little while. She was that shaken up. Now, weeks later, I was in the kitchen and my baby son was in a carrier. I was cooking something, I'm sure, but I stopped over to his carrier. It's like one of those bouncy little carriers, to bounce him a little bit, sing him a song, like I normally do, and he normally would just smile and coo and laugh. He was a very sweet baby. And while I was singing, as normal, he also had a sudden shift in his face, just like my daughter had weeks before, where he stopped, he stared at me, and he had terror in his eyes, and just started screaming, crying. The screaming, crying that came out of his mouth was not like, "I'm hungry" or "I pooped my diaper." No. This was sheer terror, all the while still staring at me. I got scared. I stopped what I was doing. I turned the stove off. I knew it was the same thing. He was so little, he was a baby, so he couldn't tell me what he saw, but I knew what it was. I stepped away for a little bit till he stopped crying as much, and then I walked over to him slowly and looked in his eyes to see, did he see that scary mask? Or did he see my face? And when I could tell that he could see my face, I stroked his little face in assurance that Mommy's here, don't worry. I still don't know what that thing was. I have some theories, but there's no way to prove them. That little old house was one of the most haunted places I've ever lived. A lot of weird things happened there, and maybe I'll come back and tell you about them, but I think that was one of the most disturbing things that happened to me because it affected my kids in the way that they saw me.
Way that they saw me.
Have you ever heard of ghosts making noise in the attic? I lived in a rented house for almost 10 years, and almost every night while living there, I had banging from the attic above my bed. It would always be a few minutes after I laid down to go to sleep, and right before I would fall asleep. It didn't matter what time it was. All that mattered was that I was in my bed and I heard banging as if someone was jumping up above my spot in my bed in the attic. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I do know that I can't explain it, and it definitely wasn't animals because we did have that checked. Have you had an experience like this? Have you heard sounds from the attic that you cannot explain? It still haunts me to this day.
It still haunts me to this day.
I once worked at a very old building. Actually, it was several buildings. One of the buildings that was on the property was a house that was about 100 years old. When I walked towards that house, I got a vision, as I sometimes do, a vision of a man extremely angry. Then later on, I had to go into the house for something else, and apparently I was stepping into a room that was just above the basement. Again, I got a vision. Dead bodies in the basement. I ran out of there quickly. Months later, I was talking to someone randomly, and it came up. And they just casually mentioned how there were rumors of the original owner of that house having killed his family back when this area was still farmland. Wife and kids, and they were found in the basement along with him. Apparently, he had also shot himself. Did I see these spirits? Did I see what happened decades ago? I think I might have, and if so, it was gruesome and very, very sad. And I believe that that man is still there, just as angry as ever, trapped on that property. I don't work there anymore, and I'm glad that I don't.
And I'm glad that I don't.
Thanks for listening to this week's Scary Stories with the Drawlers. If you have a scary story, or a paranormal story, or even just a story that is strange or unexplained, feel free to leave your story in the comments. We might read your story for next week or a future episode. Make sure you like and subscribe. Goodbye.